You ever wish you could just reach into your computer and pull out your favorite plugin as real hands-on gear? Well, here it is, man, the legendary 1176, but with a twist. What up, everybody? I'm Wavy Wayne from WavyProAudio.com, and today we are checking out Warm Audio's latest release, their take on the legendary 1176 compressor with the WA76A and the WA76D. And they come in both single channel and dual channel versions on both models. Now look, these ain't just clones. These actually come with a whole bunch of features, some that you only normally see on plugins. All right, so before we get into the new Warm Audio WA76 compressors, we gotta state the obvious. Yes, 1176 style compressors are everywhere by now. Plugins, hardware, all of it. Ain't nobody got time for that. But what I like about Warm Audio though is that they actually bring these classics back in a way that feel and sound authentic, man, without you having to drop a bunch of cash. And if you know anything about the original 1176, then you know that it's all about that punchy, super fast attack that bring your tracks to life. Drums, vocal, bass, put that shit on anything, all right? But what's dope here is that Warm Audio didn't just clone the original. They added a couple features that we normally only see on plugins, like that mix knob for quick parallel compression, sidechain filtering, and some other little unique features, man. Basically, they really took the classic design and made it more flexible, more useful for a modern today type of studio. And I think that this is what makes it interesting, right? Because sounding exactly like an old 1176 ain't the point. The point is figuring out how to give us that punch and that warmth without losing conveniences that we get by using plugins in the box. It really don't matter if you're just someone who has to mix an analog or if you're completely in the box. This could be your ticket to like a hybrid type of setup, man. Real quick, let's talk about plugins versus hardware, because I know not everyone is in the market for a physical 1176 or a WA76. The plugins are everywhere and they cheap, and honestly, some of them sound really good. But here's the thing, even though a lot of the plugins get the job done, there is a feeling, something I can't really explain necessarily, a presence, a warmth, a grit about the analog stuff that just can't be replicated with the plugins. Better yet, look, let's do this. I'm gonna play two samples. Close your eyes for a second and you tell me in the comments which one of these samples is the plugin and which one is the hardware. Let's hear it.
His smile lifts me up when I'm down. First saw him on a summer night. I knew that moment would change my life.
Sample one.
His smile lifts me up when I'm down. First saw him on a summer night. I knew that moment would change my life. I fell in.
And that was sample two. Pause the video for just a second and then go down to the comments and let me know, was sample one the plug-in or sample two the plug-in? Was sample one the hardware or was sample two the hardware? Pause the video real quick and then come back and I'm gonna tell you the answer. Now, if you guessed that sample one was the plug-in and sample two was the hardware, ding, 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 you right. But look, I get it. Plugins are super convenient and you can slap them on multiple tracks, change settings without touching the dial, pull up presets, all that. And you ain't even gotta remind me about how easy it is to recall a session when you're using a plugin versus hardware. But the hardware just has a depth, a presence, especially on these vocals, man. The average listener, they might not even be able to put a finger on exactly what it is. But to me, there is a weight and a depth to the hardware that we ain't hearing with that plugin, all right? And then look, here's a hack, right? Sometimes you can even just take the presets, right? You can go into the presets of the plugin and use those on the hardware, right? So if you're not sure where to start, maybe you just now getting into using hardware, that's a good place to start. Go into the presets of the emulation and put it on your physical device, man. Now, of course, it's not gonna sound exactly the same when you just put exactly the same settings. So you're gonna have to do a little tweaking, but that's the fun part. You get to be creative, and the hardware is gonna have some nuances that the plugins don't have, and that's where the character comes from, man. Literally for me, grabbing a knob and turning turning and twisting knobs is just more fun than pushing a mouse, right? Even the faders, right? It's just more fun, more intuitive, and it forces us to take our eyes off of the screen and actually just listen to the music as we changing that knob, man. And if you just now getting into hardware, don't worry about trying to do anything complicated like setting up a hardware insert in Pro Tools. You can just use it on the front end while you're recording, like I do most of the time. Most of the time when I'm using my preamps and compressors and stuff like that, I'm literally just using that to record in, because again, it's so much easier to work with it, and you're gonna get a much better sound recording in using real analog gear than using any plug-in emulations. All right, so now let's get into some of the distinguishing features that Warm Audio has packed into these WA76s, man. Let's break it down. First up, we have the Z input impedance switch. This lets you toggle between a 600 ohm setting, which is for like traditional analog hardware. Maybe if you was like coming out of the preamp and then going into the compressor. Or they also got a little switch on there for it, set it to the 10K. Now, this is better if you are doing what I'm currently doing and routing signals out of my audio interface into the compressor. Now, having the right impedance is a subtle change, but it will give you a more accurate, cleaner signal that you can hear, and it will make a difference. Next up, we got the dry wet mix control. Now, this is one of my favorite controls on any compressor plugin because it'll let you blend the uncompressed signal with the compressed one. This is perfect for easy parallel compression. So instead of going super heavy and all in with the compression and like, oh, I need to dial it back, you can actually just dial in some of the dry mix a little bit and get the best of both worlds, man. Now, this next one is one of my favorites. It's the variable sidechain high pass filter. When you compressing a signal, the bass frequencies can sometimes dominate and trigger the compressor too much. The high pass filter lets you cut those lows from the sidechain, meaning that the compressor isn't as heavily influenced by the bass. So if you're working on something like vocals, or even if you got it on your mix bus, you can keep that low end from affecting the overall compression too much and keep your mix sounding balanced. And then there's the external sidechain. This allows you to easily pull off the old bass ducks when the kick hits trick, all right? Say that 3 times fast. If you're using 2 single units, there's also a stereo link feature so that you can link 2 mono compressors for stereo stuff, man. This makes one unit the leader and the other the follower, giving you true stereo compression. You can also, I think it said like you can daisy chain up to 10 of them units together. For whatever reason, you might want to do that, all right? Now, if you're working with the dual unit setup, you get 3 stereo operating modes, which are actually pretty dope. Now, and it really makes it very powerful, right? Now, you get a regular stereo linked, which is labeled as stereo. You get leader follower, which is labeled as AAB, and dual mono labeled as AB. Now, with the stereo link, both channels work independently, but their sidechains are linked. In that case, the loudest channel will dictate both channels' behavior. In the leader follower, the left channel sidechain will dictate how both channels operate. And then in dual mono is clutch because it's basically like you got 2 of the WA76s all in one unit. Each of the channels are going to operate on completely independently. So whether you're working with the WA76A or the WA76D, you can choose whether you want the stereo versions to work in tandem or independent of each other, giving you complete flexibility on any of those dual modes. Now, finally, Warm Audio gives you a choice of multiple bypass types. And there are 3 modes, and here's how they work. For one, you got the attack off, right? Now, this gives you the grit and the color from the analog signal path. With this setting, there are 2 gain stages. You got the input gain stage and the output. Both of them are adding color. You can then use the wet dry control with that attack off to blend how much of the analog color that you want. There's another mode. You got the wet dry set completely to dry, 100% dry. Now with this one, you just get the added color from the output amp, but no compression is going to be added. And then you also got the bypass switch. That's just bypass. It's off. It's off. Now while I've been playing with this, I've been having fun using the attack off mode and just to add color to my mix bus. So over here, if I scroll down, you can see in my session, I got the 76D2 inserted as a hardware insert on my mix bus. And this attack off mode is pretty dope.
His smile lifts me up when I'm down.
I'm gonna just make sure that all the attacks are off. My releases are set the same. That don't even matter though, right? And then I can blend between how much saturation, how much of that color I want. That's all the way completely dry.
I like that. I like that. All right, so there you have it, man. We started this journey by pulling a WA76A out of my screen and into the real world. And now, after diving into its features, it's clear just how much WA Audio has put into making these a powerhouse in the studio for both analog lovers and in-the-box creators, man. From that Z input impedance switch that brings it closer to your setup, like makes it just work no matter what you're doing with it, to the wet dry for easy parallel compression. And it don't even matter if you knew the hardware. These units are so flexible, it's easy to dive into, man. But look, at the end of the day, the 1176 is iconic for a reason. And this version is made to handle everything from vocals to getting really aggressive on drums. Like I was squashing the drums earlier, having some fun with that. Now look, let's talk about the price though, because you know WA Audio is gonna look out and you know it's gonna plug, and you know you can find these on wavyproaudio.com. The single channel unit comes in at about $699, and if you're looking for that dual channel unit of either version, the A or the D, it's gonna be $11.99 now. That's definitely an investment, but consider everything that we getting in the box. It is worth it. All right, so in the end, whether you're a producer, a mix engineer, or somebody who just love gear, the WA Audio WA76 is designed to be a workhorse for you, and it will give you the experience of a legendary 1176, but with a whole bunch of bells and whistles, man. I think you should definitely check it out. Be dope.